Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisance of Glorious Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we will be discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Verse 8, and the chapter is entitled Dhritarashtra Quits Home, and the class will be given by His Grace Vishnugata Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Vancha Kalpatarubhyacha, Kripasandhubhyevacha Patidaram Pavane, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. And it's all
Hey
yours, Prabhu.
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vana Chari Jamuna Tira Vana Chari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajak Acharya Ashtotara Sata Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shamaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 13th chapter, 8th verse. Yudhishthir Uvacha Api Smarata no Yushmat Paksha Chaya Sameditan Vipad Ganad Vishagnadir Mochita Yat Samatrika. Yudhishthir Uvacha Api Smarata no Yushmat Paksha Chaya Sameditan Vipad Ganat Vishagnadir Mochita Yat Samatrika. Yudhishthir Uvacha Api Smaratano Yushmat Paksha Chaya Samedhitan Vipad Ganat Vishagnadir Mochita Yat Samatrika.
Yudhishthir Vacha Api Smarata no Yusmat Akshashchaya Sameditan Vipadgana Vishagnade Ochita Yat Samatrika. Hare Krishna.
Yudhishthir Uvacha Api Smarata no Yusmat Paksha Chaya Samedhitan Vipad Ganad Vishagnadir Mochita Yat Samatrika. Hare Krishna.
Yudhishthir Uvacha. Maharaj Yudhishthir said, Api, whether, Smarata, you remember, Na, us, Yushmat, from you, Paksha, partiality towards us like the wings of a bird, Chaya, protection, Samedhitan, we who were brought up by you, Vipat Ganat, from various types of calamities, Bisha, by administration of poison, Agni Ade, by setting on fire, Mochita, released from, Yat, what you have done, Sa, along with Matrika, our mother. Translation, Maharaj Yudhishthir said, my uncle, do you remember how you always protected us along with our mother from all sorts of calamities? Oops, what happened? I don't see it anymore.
Wait, I'm coming back on now. Hold on.
And she is coming back on. We're having trouble with our Wi-Fi, and she got
Okay.
kicked out. And we may have to switch hosts when she gets back on, and then
Honey, open your database.
okay. Database. I'll open database and get to it for you.
I'm gonna have you share this.
Okay. What's the again?
113.8.
Canto 1.
13.
Okay.
Okay.
Canto 1, chapter 13.
Here it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
It-
Maharaj Yudhishthir said, my uncle, do you remember how you always protected us along with our mother from all sorts of calamities?
Is he reading?
Yeah.
Your partiality, like the wings of a bird,
Open your screen.
saved us from poisoning and arson.
This one.
It's that arrow.
Purport.
Okay, not that. Oh, that. Yeah.
Due to Pandu's death at an early age, his minor children and widow were the object of special care by all the elderly members of the family, especially Bhishma Dev and Mahatma Vidur. Vidura was more or less partial to the Pandavas due to their political position. Although Dhritarashtra was equally careful for the minor children of Maharaj Pandu. Yeah. He was one of the intriguing parties who wanted to wash away the descendants of Pandu and replace them by raising his own sons to become the rulers of the kingdom. Mahatma Vidura could follow this intrigue of Dhritarashtra and company, and therefore, even though he was a faithful servitor of his eldest brother, Dhritarashtra, he did not like his political ambition for the sake of his own sons. He was therefore very careful about the protection of the Pandavas and their widow mother. Thus he was, so to speak, partial to the Pandavas, preferring them to the sons of Dhritarashtra, although both of them were equally affectionate in his ordinary eyes. He was equally affectionate to both the camps of nephews in the sense that he always chastised Duryodhan for his intriguing policy against his cousins. He always criticized his elder brother for his policy of encouragement to his sons, and at the same time, he was always alert in giving special protection to the Pandavas. All these different activities of Vidura within the palace politics made him well known as partial to the Pandavas. Maharaj Yudhishthir has referred to the past history of Vidura before he was going away from home for a prolonged pilgrim's journey. Maharaj Yudhishthir reminded him that he was equally kind and partial to his grown-up nephews even after the Battle of Kurukshetra, a great family disaster. Before the Battle of Kurukshetra, Dhritarashtra's policy was peaceful annihilation of his nephews. And therefore he ordered Purochan to build a house of lac at Varanavata. And when the building was finished, Dhritarashtra desired that his brother's family live there for some time. When the Pandavas were going there, in the presence of all the members of the royal family, Vidur tactfully gave instructions to the Pandavas about the future plan of Dhritarashtra. This is specifically described in the Mahabharata, Adi Parva 144. He indirectly hinted, even a weapon not made of steel or any other material element can be more than sharp enough to kill an enemy, and he who knows this is never killed. That is to say, he hinted that the party of the Pandavas was being sent to Varanavata to be killed, and thus he warned Yudhishthir to be very careful in their new residential palace. He also gave indications of fire and said that fire cannot extinguish the soul, but can annihilate the material body. But one who protects the soul can live. Kunti could not follow such indirect conversations between Maharaj Yudhishthir and Vidura, and thus when she inquired from her son about the purport of the conversation, Yudhishthir replied that from the talks of Vidura, it was understood that there was a hint of fire in the house where they were proceeding. Later on, Vidura came in disguise to the Pandavas and informed him that the housekeeper was going to set fire to the house on the 14th night of the waning moon. It was an intrigue of Dhritarashtra that the Pandavas might die altogether with their mother. And by his warning, the Pandavas escaped through a tunnel underneath the earth, so that their escape was also unknown to Dhritarashtra. So much so that after setting the fire, the Kauravas were so certain of the death of the Pandavas that Dhritarashtra performed the last rites of death with great cheerfulness. And during the mourning period, all the members of the palace became overwhelmed with lamentation. But Vidura did not become so because of his knowledge that the Pandavas were alive somewhere. There are many such instances of calamities, and in each of them, Vidura gave protection to the Pandavas on one hand, and on the other hand, he tried to restrain his brother Dhritarashtra from such intriguing policies. Therefore, he was always partial to the Pandavas, just as a bird protects its eggs by its wing. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Stapidang Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamahyam Dadati Shapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'd first like to ask blessings and permission from all the devotees, and specifically, especially those who are the senior by age, by advancement in Krishna consciousness, and by involvement in the Hare Krishna movement. Thank you. Mahatma Vidura said, my uncle, do you remember how you always protected us along with our mother from all sorts of calamities? Your partiality, like the wings of the bird, saved us from poisoning and arson. So that wings of the bird in the Sanskrit, it's very interesting. Paksha, you know, Paksha. Paksha means birds. There's a song by Lochan Das Thakur. Parama Karuna Pahudvijan Nitai Gorachand. You know that song? Yes. Mother Anasuya says no. Parikit Prabhu says yes. That's the song that Srila Prabhupada used to sing prior to speaking on Chaitanya.
When you started singing Prabhu, then I remembered.
Oh,
When you
okay,
started
okay.
singing. Sorry.
I'll give you credit for that. That's okay. So the second line is Dekha ore bhai, just see. Oh, everybody, people. Dekha, Tribhuvane nai, e mono doyalo. There's nobody merciful and more merciful than the three gods. Pashu Paki Jure. Pashu is animal, and Paki is Bengali for same. Pakshi, birds. The birds and the animals are chanting. So Paksha, the wings of the bird. Chaya, Chaya. Usually when you see Chaya, it usually means what? Chaya. Shri Guru Charana Pada Kevala.
Shelter, Prabhu?
Haha Prabhu Koro Doya Deha More Pada Chaya. Yeah, Pada Chaya. Usually it's protection or the shade. Shade. Chaya, shade. Sometimes there's especially ladies, they might be given the first name Chaya. So the shade or protection. And then Vipad, various kinds of calamities. Vipada tantu takshasvad, calamities, Vipada. Padam yad vipadam, natesham, calamities. Bisha, administration of poison. Agni, by fire, mochitam, liberation from savor. Matrika, our mother. So this is a very interesting verse. I was very happy that I got this verse today because one time I was having a problem in my mind and not trying to understand some parts of Lord Krishna's pastimes, and especially this incident at the house of lack at Varanavata. You know what lack is? What is lack?
Prabhu, I really don't know what it is, but I've seen, it is that I don't know how to describe it, but I've seen, women wear earrings made out of black, but it's very moldable kind of a thing. Like it breaks very easily.
Okay.
That's the only thing I know about it.
So, they also call it shellac. Shellac. So apparently there's these kind of beetles that live in the mountains, especially in the Himalayan mountains. And there's a particular type of evergreen tree that they feed on. So there's a lot of these beetles that get on this evergreen tree and they suck the sap of the tree and it solidifies on their backs, the carapaces of the beetles. So then people take those beetles and they boil them. And then the sap, that's been processed through the insect rises to the top and they take that off. And that's called lac or shellac. And you put it on, they put it on wood to make it shiny. They also put it sometimes on apples to make them shiny. Of course, I'm sure they have artificial methods to do it too, but that's lac. So the house, it's very, very, problem is it's very flammable. It can burn easily burning. So I had the reason I was happy about this is because I had this concern, the Pandavas were requested by Dhritarashtra to go to this place in Varanavata, which is, in Hastinapur, where the capital was of the Kauravas, was their Hastinapur. And Varanavata is north, and it's in the foothills of the Himalayas. And it's especially a place that's people are known to worship Lord Shiva. Anyway, so Dhritarashtra, under the impetus of his sons, especially Duryodhan, he said, well, hey, why don't you boys, Yudhishthira and company, he especially spoke to Yudhishthira, why don't you take a little vacation? It's sometimes it gets hot here. Why don't you take a little vacation? And Yudhishthira, he was that time, how old was Yudhishthira at that time? Maybe about 20 years old. 20, maybe a little more. No, that's okay. We wouldn't like to do that. Oh, no. So, but Dhritarashtra insisted. So at that time, in the palatial politics, palace politics, the Pandavas and the Kauravas were still princes. They hadn't divided the kingdom yet. You follow? They're all cooperating. And who was acting as the king? Who was acting as the king? Dhritarashtra was acting as the king. He was acting but with the support of Bhishma and the council of Vidur, and then there was Kripacharya and others. So even though the Pandavas and the sons of Dhritarashtra were also there, but they were still a little bit junior, so they were acting as the regents. Dhritarashtra was acting as the regent, so he insisted that the Pandavas go to Varanavata. So Yudhishthira didn't want to go, but because he was being asked by his uncle, who was his superior, his authority, he agreed to go with his brothers, with the whole point that they were going to be killed there. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, peaceful annihilation. It seems kind of contradictory, right? Peaceful annihilation. Peaceful. Why is it peaceful annihilation? Well, it's not all-out war. It wasn't all-out war. It was behind the scenes. They were going to do some cheating. And you know what? Lord Krishna knew this was happening. He already knew this was going to take place. How did he know? How do we know that? Well, when Lord Krishna was in Mathura, he was brought there, a very young age, around, sometimes it says 12, sometimes a little later. And he was brought there to be assassinated by Kamsa and his henchmen, but Lord Krishna killed his maternal uncle, Kamsa. And after killing him and liberating his parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, who were being kept prisoners, Akrura, who had brought him there, said, "Why don't you come to my house? Come on, can you come over? Can you come over to my house?" And you know what Lord Krishna told him? I'm sure in a respectful way. Prabhu, you know what he said? No, not now. Not at this time. Later I'll come. I'll come later. Not now.
Yeah.
So then years passed and he didn't go. So, but finally, later, just shortly before his departure from Mathura, at that time, he went to the house of Akrura. And at that time, he said, "I have a special mission for you. I want you to do something. Please, on my behalf, go to Hastinapur and talk some sense into Dhritarashtra, because he's partial to his own sons, and he's going to try to mess up and do harm to the sons of Pandu. Please tell him not to do that." So Akrura did that. This is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. You'll find it in Krishna book also. So Akrura went there and he spoke to Dhritarashtra on Lord Krishna's behalf. This is right before this incident with the asking the Pandavas and Yudhishthira to go to Varanavata. So Akrura said, "Well, please, don't be nasty to the sons of Pandu. Treat them as your own sons, and don't follow the dictates of your evil-minded son Duryodhana." So Dhritarashtra replied. You remember what Dhritarashtra said? He kind of threw up his hands. He said, "Nothing I can do. I can't handle this. It's fate. It's fate. That's all. I can't handle it. It's fate." So even though he was advised by Akrura and by Lord Krishna, still he's nothing I can do about it. So what do we know? Can we gather from that? Is that it wasn't that there's nothing we could. He was in favor of the plans of Duryodhana. He didn't want to step in because he was in favor of that. So anyway, that effort was not successful, at least at that point. So then Dhritarashtra, with the urging of Duryodhana and Shukuni, he ordered the Pandavas to go to Varanavata. And on their leaving Hastinapur, Vidura came there. Interesting, it says here twice in the purport, it says Mahatma Vidura. You see that? Mahatma Vidura. Mahatma, even though he was cursed to be born of a Shudrani, he was cursed to be born from a Shudrani, he's referred to as Mahatma. This is very interesting. So anyway, because in reality, anybody who knows the science of Krishna and engages in Krishna service, they're Mahatma. Mahatmanas tu mam partha daivim prakritim ashrita bhajanti ananya manaso. You know this verse. A Mahatma is someone who is engaging in the service of Krishna, taking shelter of the divine energy. That's Srimati Radharani. That's the definition of Mahatma given in Bhagavad Gita. So Vidur, because he was born the son of a Shudrani, he happened to know Mlecha Bhasha. You know what Mlecha Bhasha is? Mlecha Bhasha. Mlecha Bhasha means the language of the lower class. Mlecha. So he knew that, but the others didn't know. But somehow Yudhishthira Maharaj knew. So even in the presence of all the others, as they were leaving, Vidura spoke to Yudhishthira Maharaj in Mlecha Bhasha about this situation. He said, there are weapons that are not made of hard physical material elements, but they still can kill the soul, kill you. That's a hint about fire. And he said the snakes, when there's fire in the forest, they take shelter in a hole, right? So they're not burned, right? All the animals may be burned, but the snake isn't. And they said that the fire can't burn the soul, but can certainly burn the material body. So these things, Yudhishthir, he acknowledged that he understood, and so Vidura was happy with that. Then later, his mother asked him, "What was that about? What was it? What was that whole conversation?" After they were out of earshot from the others, because there was always spies and stuff going around. So Yudhishthir Maharaj said, well, there's a plan to burn us up when we go to Varanavata. So he was well aware of that. So when the Pandavas went there, later Vidura sent a person who was good at digging mines. And every day, during the day, they would go out into the adjoining forests in the with the idea of sightseeing. But during that day, the miner would come in and start digging a tunnel underneath the house, because they knew when they first came to the house, they could understand. They checked it out and they could see, oh, this is made of, there's lac materials there that's easily burnable. So they stayed there for about a year in Varanavata, about a year. They would be out during the day. And then Vidura came in disguise and said, okay, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. On the 14th day, from the full moon is what? It's almost a new moon. It's almost a new moon, right? Because it goes down. It goes up and down, so it's almost a new moon. And when the new moon, you don't see anything. It's harder to see what's going on. So the whole plan was to light the fire on that night and burn up the Pandavas while they're sleeping. So says here, Srila Prabhupada says that one of the housekeepers was going to light the fire. Sometimes it says that Purochan, the person who arranged for the house to be built, was going to light the fire. But in any case, there was a fire. There was a fire. And who lit that fire? Do you know? Who lit the fire that burned the house in Varanavata? Come on. Are you there? I don't know, maybe we're disconnected here. Hello. I think. Do you hear me? Hare Krishna. I think something went wrong. Hello? Can you say, anybody? Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna, yeah, that's it.
Okay, Hare Krishna. There's something problem with the Zoom. So you know who lit the fire for the of the house of Varanavata? Anybody? It was Bhima. Bhima set the fire. What happened was there was they knew that there was going to be they were planning to light the fire, and they had a party that night. And at the party was this housekeeper and her 5 sons. And the people were drinking. So they got a little intoxicated. So then Purochan was also there. So then they lit the fire, and the house burned down, and the Pandavas escaped through the tunnel built by the miner, the person who excavated the tunnel. So then in my mind, I thought, wait a minute. So the woman who was the housekeeper and her sons were there, and they were burned in the fire. So then the next morning, after the rubble was cleared, they found the bodies of Purochan, of the housekeeper, and her sons, who had all been at the party, and they'd all been burned to death. So I was thinking, well, how is it that, Bhima lights this fire to burn the house down, and these people who were there at the party, they may have been a little drunk, okay, but they were killed. Isn't that murder? Or at least manslaughter? What do you think? Anybody there? Is this Zoom still working?
Hey, Krishna.
Yeah, okay, it's still working. Good. So what do you think about it? Go ahead.
Yeah, there was something else in relation to them. I think that made it not okay, but I don't know if they already passed or something happened that made that situation okay, and I forget exactly what happened though.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So anyway, I was a little disturbed about this. So I asked some devotees, and I said, well, they were the woman and her 5 sons were nishadas. They were low class, or people. So it's okay. They died. Well, I didn't especially like that. It's not. It's we can. If you set your house on fire from arson, and then some people unsuspectingly they're caught in the fire and they die, then you're guilty of killing them, right? Maybe not intended for them to be killed, but you're guilty of killing them. So I was disturbed by that thought. Oh, there they are. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, we've been having some serious issues this whole week. I sincerely apologize.
No
Prabhu.
problem. I'm just unhappy that you missed where we were, because I was talking.
I'm so upset myself.
So we were talking that Bhima set the fire, Bhim. And then the house burned down, and then Purochan and the woman and her 5 sons were all killed. And then the next day, when the people came to check out the what's going on, the fire had burned down the whole house, they found the bodies of the woman and the 5 sons. And because they didn't have, I guess they didn't have very developed methods of, crime scene investigation, they decided that those people, that must be Mother Kunti and the 5 Pandavas that had died. So then they had the funeral for the Pandavas right there in Varanavata. And Dhritarashtra performed the funeral. And you know who attended the funeral? You know who attended the funeral? Are you still there? Or did you get more? Yeah, you're still there. Good. Krishna attended the funeral. Lord Krishna was there at the funeral. He came from Dwaraka because, of course, there's his good friends. He attended the funeral. And while he was away at the funeral, back in Dwaraka, his father-in-law was murdered. All these things happened. So anyway, I was wondering, how is this that Bhima could, just light the fire and these people got killed? So I thought, well, there must be something else. There must be something else. So it was in my mind. I was praying to Krishna to give me some understanding of this. So then I was reading about, just a few days ago was the appearance or disappearance of Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya in our line of disciplic succession back in the 12th century. So he they say, it said that he was an incarnation of Vayu, like Bhim. What kind of incarnation? I'm not sure. But he was after doing some initial preaching, he went to Vyasadeva in the Himalayas and took direct instruction from Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva gave him a few instructions. When he went there, he showed Vyasadeva his Bhagavad Gita commentary. Vyasadeva gave him some suggestions. And then Vyasadeva gave him two instructions. He said, write a commentary on Vedanta Sutra and write a commentary on Mahabharata. Write a commentary on Mahabharata. And that commentary, you can still find it here and there. It's called the Tatparana Vinaya. No. So I thought, let me look at the commentary of Madhvacharya, see what he says about this incident. One of the things he says in that commentary, first thing he says, that, yeah, that was like, almost, that was 800 years ago. But he said, or 900, yeah, he said, no, there are many versions of the Mahabharata and they've been corrupted, many. That was that time, what to speak of today. But in speaking about this incident of Bhim and lighting the fire, he points out that this housekeeper and her 5 sons were actually in league with Parochan. They were working for him. And what was their purpose being there? One of their purposes being there is if they're going to light the fire, if you light a fire and you want to make sure everybody gets killed, then you make sure that they're not going to get out of the house, right? You want to make sure they stay in the house so they get burned up. So anyway, so their job was to make sure to administer drinks to the Pandavas that were poisonous and would make them knock them out. So when the fire came, they would be burned. You follow? You follow? So they were just innocent bystanders that got killed, but they were in on the whole plot to kill, attempted murder, right? And they administered poison, but the Pandavas didn't take that poison. Very interesting. So they were burned. And so then here we come back to this verse. Let's look at the verse again. Let's look at the verse. So I thought, well, that's a very interesting point. I never heard that point specifically before, at least I didn't. But is there any confirmation? Because of course, maybe we don't have it exactly right. Is there any confirmation within the Srimad Bhagavatam that might have taken place? So here we have, do you remember my uncle, how you always protected us along with our mother from all sorts of calamities? Your partiality, like wings of the bird, saved us from poisoning and arson. Okay. Vidura warned them about the arson, the burning of the house of Lak. What about poison? When did Vidura save him from poison?
At the same time that he came in disguise. It says here he came in disguise to tell them when.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So sometimes people say, well, there was the incident when Bhima was poisoned by a poison cake from Duryodhana, but that Vidura didn't have anything to do with that. He was not involved. This incident at the Varanavata is when he was warned by Vidura in disguise that there was going to be poisoned and then burned. This is the time. So you follow what I'm saying? Do you follow?
Prabhu, does it mean that so before they were going to get burned, they were going to be poisoned and then burned?
Yes, they were going to.
Okay.
So the point of the poisoning was so they don't run out. I mean, if I set a house on fire, you can always escape. And they did escape, but they escaped through the tunnel because they weren't knocked out by the knockout drops that they were supposed to be getting from this housekeeper and her sons. Yeah. So this is very interesting. So the same thing is going on, way back. This is the time when at the very beginning of their activities, so then the Pandavas, after escaping through the tunnel with their mother, they were in the forest for some time. You know this. And Bhima was guarding them as they were resting in the forest. And then there were two demons named Hidimba and Hidimbi. And Hidimba was the male demon, and he thought, wow, I smell some good flesh to eat. And he ordered his sister to go and check it out and bring them to him. So Hidimbi came there, and when she looked at the Pandavas, she got captivated by Bhim. So she changed herself into a charming, beautiful woman and proposed. Usually it wasn't an arranged marriage in this case. She proposed to him. And Bhim said, well, wait a minute. I mean, my older brother's not married yet, and I only follow him. So, but Mother Kunti said, no, it's okay. You can do it. It's all right. And so he took the instruction from his mother to marry Hidimbi, and they had a son by the name of Gatotkacha. So he was a character, and he played a part in the Battle of Kurukshetra many years later. But then later that Hidimba demon was killed by Bhim. Then from there, they went to Ekachakra, Ekachakra Gram. That's the same town where Lord Nityananda was appeared. Quite a distance. And there's two times the Pandavas were incognito. 2 times. This time, they're not officially incognito, but they were appearing in disguise because they understood that Duryodhana will have his spies everywhere, and if they were detected, then in their sleep they may be assassinated like that. So they assumed the dress of Brahmanas and were living. They went to Ekachakra Gram, and they were begging from place to place in Ekachakra. But at the time, they weren't getting much alms, and whatever they would get, they'd give. The 4 Pandava brothers would take 1/2, and Bhima would take the other half. It's because he had a voracious appetite. So still, he was still hungry. He was hungry. So he was not very satisfied. They were living by begging. So one day, Mother Kunti was staying home, but they were staying at the house of a Brahmin, and the Brahmin was talking with his wife and his kids, and they were lamenting that very soon, they had been chosen to give one of their family members to feed a Rakshasa, man-eating demon that lived outside the town. So this ogre had used to irregularly come into the town and grab somebody and take him away and kill him. But so the town authorities made a deal with this demon that okay, don't do it. Just it makes us crazy, and we are completely freaked out. Just we'll arrange for 1 person a month to come and we'll come to you with a cartload of food, and you just take, but don't come irregularly, at random anytime. So the demon agreed to that. He was living outside the town, so every month there were a different family would have to provide a human being to be eaten by this demon. So this month it came to the family where the Pandavas were staying, and they were very unhappy. So Mother Kunti, hearing their lamentation, she asked what the story was, and so they told her. And she said, don't worry, my son will be happy to represent the town this time. So Bhim then, when he heard this, he was very happy
Can you hear
because
anything?
what's that? Yeah, you can't hear? No hearing? You can't hear?
I
Can you?
think I'm going to get kicked out. Oops.
You can't hear? Nothing?
I can hear Prabhu. It's just my
Now we
connection
can hear
is so
something. Can you hear me?
bad.
Okay.
I have to do something about it. Definitely.
Okay. So anyway, I mean, we're at 8:52. If anybody has questions or comments about this so far, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. And again,
Don't worry
many
about it.
apologies. I feel like I'm missed out so much on this class. Krishna's really testing my patience here. Prabhu, I have a question. You mentioned in the class that Krishna was present at the funeral of the mother and the 5 sons, but he knew that they were not the Pandavas and
Yes.
Mother Kunti, right? So why
Yes,
did he
yes.
go?
To follow proper etiquette.
Ah,
Dhritarashtra was every
okay.
Vidura also know it wasn't the Pandavas, but he also attended. So they were, he was going. Then of course I was speaking about. Can you still hear? Yeah. So then after the Bhima, he went to the demon, and he killed the demon, and he ate the food that was prepared for the demon. And he was very happy with that. And he put the body of the demon at the entrance to the city, at the city gates. So when people were going to work that morning, they looked, they said, oh, the demon's dead. That Vakasura was the name of the demon. So then later they heard about there was this Swayamvara taking place very soon at the in Panchaladesh, where Draupadi is going to be having her Swayamvara. So the Pandavas went there in disguise of Brahmanas, and then it took about about a year, all that time, for them to uh, come back to people knowing that they're still alive. And then Arjun won the hand of Draupadi in a contest. And then they returned to Hastinapur. This time though, when they came back, Vidura and Bhishma and the others, they made sure that the kingdom was divided so that the Pandavas had their part, and the Kauravas had their part. So that's when Indraprastha happened. They were given a tract of land nearby, which was their kingdom, and that became a very glorious kingdom, so much so that the Kauravas later became envious. But the Pandavas were ruling in Indraprastha for maybe 40 years prior to the dice match. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So
I didn't know that part. 40 years.
see how all these things fit together. It's very interesting.
Yes, Prabhu, very interesting. And Prabhu, well, let me ask if other devotees have questions, any comments, any clarification, please do jump right in and ask your question. If you have any. Prabhu, another question I have is Bakasura and the demon that Bhim killed, they are different, right, Prabhu?
Yeah,
The
they're
names are familiar. That's
they're
why
very
I was
similar names, but they're two different demons. Yeah, there's the Bakasur
Okay.
who was in Krishna's early pastimes when he was just a
Yes.
boy. Yeah, and this Bakasur is a different Bakasura. So
Okay.
apparently there are more than one Bakasuras running.
I was just wondering, Prabhu.
So there's slight difference in their name, but big demon.
And yeah, okay. I just wanted to clarify because I was asking that to my husband last week. I said, are they the same or different? And Prabhu, the book that you mentioned, that the commentary by Madhavacharya, what's it called again, Prabhu? I mean, is it easily available?
No. I asked. There's a devotee in Philadelphia. His name is Prananath. So he was raised in the Madhva Sampradaya, kind of. So I asked him to look to see if he could find a good translation of that, but he hasn't been able to find it yet. Maybe still he will. I found some things online that have some English translations, but it wasn't very complete. But it had this part in it anyway. Tat Parna Vinaya Madhvacharya. So it was the order of Vyasadeva. It's very interesting because in the Madhvacharya Sampradaya, they don't recognize Vyasadeva as his guru. You know that? They recognize Achyuta Preksha as his guru. Whereas in our Sampradaya, in the Gaudiya Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, we recognize Vyasadeva as his guru. So there's some controversy. Some people say that Achyuta Preksha was a Mayavadi. And Madhvacharya later set him straight. Others say no, he was a covered personalist. But anyway, there's some controversy. So in our Sampradaya, we don't say that he was his prime guru was Achyuta Preksha. We say it was Vyasadeva because he went twice. He went twice to get instruction from Vyasadeva in the Himalayas, way up in the Himalayas. So that we avoid that controversy. Because if you think if Madhvacharya's guru was actually a Mayavadi, how was there parampara? That doesn't make sense, right? And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, it has to be evam parampara praptam mimam rajashayo vidu. Like I said, there's different versions of that. So I asked when Prananath Prabhu went to India last time, I asked him to ask the people his at the Madhvacharya temples nearby where he was what was the status of Achyuta Preksha, whether was he a personalist or a Mayavadi, and they said he was an impersonalist. But there's a book written by a translation of there's a book on Srila Madhvacharya's life biography called Sri Madhava Vijay, which has been translated to some extent by an ISKCON devotee named Purna Pragya. But of course, it's not a direct translation. He adds other things there. But in that book, it says he is a covered personalist. So I don't know how he got that information, but anyway, that's what some people say. So there's some controversy.
Mm. And Prabhu, this book, I'm sure the Mahabharata commentary by Krishna Dharmadas, that's bona fide, right? I mean, that's a good one to follow, right? I don't know.
It's on the Veda-based website.
Oh, okay.
It's apparently approved by whoever runs the Veda-based website. There are some things that aren't accurate in that translation.
Aha. Because I know we got one 20 years ago, so I just wanted the old first copy of it.
In the Mahabharata, there's several versions. There's a Purna Pragya version also. Purna Pragya. He is very, very detailed. And there's a Hridayananda Maharaj version. Hridayananda Maharaj also, for many years, I don't know if you remember, for many years he was translating the Mahabharata and in a verse-by-verse format. And he would translate it and give lectures about it in temples. And used to be, one could get a audio of his descriptions of different parts of the Mahabharata. I think you can still find some on ISKCON Desire Tree. Like he would give seminars on certain sections of the Mahabharata directly. Later, he changed his idea and decided he would change it into some kind of novel, more modern. So he never, as far as I know, he never completed it. But for some time, and among the different Mahabharats, I found that his was the most thoroughly researched and well done. But unfortunately, it didn't make it to press.
It'd be really nice if it made to the press. It would be really, really nice. Because Maharaj gives really nice classes.
So yeah, so the thing with there's the characters the characters like the five Pandavas and things, they weren't just they were very wonderful devotees. So sometimes if it's not presented carefully, then the characters can become wooden. Does that make sense? Yeah, they're, you know. So, you know, you think Dhritarashtra then later requested, he made another request later for Yudhishthira. And what was that request? Why don't you play some dice, right? Why don't you have a dice match? So Duryodhana was smart. He said, well, I'm not gonna ask him directly. I'm going to ask my father to ask him, because if my father asks him, he's the superior, so then Yudhishthira is going to take it more seriously. And you know what Yudhishthira said at the time when Dhritarashtra asked him to play dice? He said, no way. I'm not, you know, but gambling makes your intelligence away. I mean, this is a very dangerous thing, very dangerous. I'm not doing that. So initially, but Dhritarashtra repeatedly insisted that he must do it. Now remember, Yudhishthira is not, he's not a you know, just a naive guy. He's very highly intelligent. But, you know, but this is the same person, Dhritarashtra is the same person, Yudhishthira remembers, was the same person who sent him to Varanavada to get murdered. Now you think about it. Think about it. Did they ever come up on charges for attempted murder?
No.
Why is that? Why is that? Anyway, but Yudhishthira is fully aware that they tried to kill him and his brothers before, and his mother. So he's very careful about that. But on the other hand, he's thinking, if I don't do what the, you know, authority says, I'm gonna, you know, that's also a very bad precedent. So he was very, very, very conflicted about going along with that order. Eventually, he did, but very, very reluctantly, because he didn't. On one hand, he didn't want to set the precedent that, you know, the junior should reject the senior. Of course, you know, in something like playing dice. I mean, if he had done for other people, you know, gambling in general is a bad thing, and Yudhishthira Maharaj knew that. But it was allowed. Technically, it was allowed for the Kshatriyas. Technically, it's allowed. You know, just like when you're challenged to a fight, they have to. Technically, do they have to fight? No, but technically, it was allowed. So there was some wiggle room, very little wiggle room. So he tried to get out of it, but it didn't work. So then there was the whole dice match and the whole thing. So he was well aware that Dhritarashtra was not necessarily his well-wisher. So this is what's going on here. Dhritarashtra is still at the home. After all this stuff, after he tried to kill the Pandavas, or he was instrumental in killing the Pandavas many ways, Vidura is coming back. Why is he coming back to the palace? To deliver his brother, to deliver Dhritarashtra, who tried to do all these things. This is the mercy of the great devotee. Even so many problems, so many negative offenses that he committed, still Vidura is trying to benefit him. Therefore, he's called Mahatma Vidura. Mahatma Vidura. I had another question. You know, at this time, I know it's getting late. At this time, you know, it was recognized that it wasn't a person's birth that was the prime factor in what a person's varna was. Do you have any examples of that? Even at this time?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. It was known even at this time that a person's birth wasn't the prime determining factor of what their varna is. So how are there any examples of that? Yes. How about Romaharshan Sutta? Right? Remember Romaharshan Sutta? That was the same time. And he was born of a sutta, means a mixed marriage, which was considered Shudra. But because of his learning from Vyasadeva, and because of his being able to present the philosophy, he was recognized by all the Brahmins at the Naimisharanya as being a qualified to speak on the Puranas. But Balaram had a different understanding, but still, Lord Balaram, still. So why is it that Mahatma Vidura, even though he was born from a Shudrani, he wasn't recognized in that way? You understand? He's called here Mahatma. He's called here Mahatma. Was he called Mahatma Vidura back then? I don't know. It's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to it. It might be the curse that he got from the, Mandak Muni, not only made him born of a Shudrani, but have to be addressed or treated as a Shudra also. Maybe I'm that's only speculation, but I don't know those. But we know that even in some cases at this time, that people born in a lower family were sometimes recognized because of their quality and their work. So apparently that never happened, at least within the general social structure of the palace. That never occurred for Vidur. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for such a wonderful class.
We
And
had fun.
again,
We had
Prabhu,
fun today. As usual.
oh, Krishna. I was really asking my daughter, what did Prabhu say? If she's getting good Wi-Fi and I'm getting bad, I'm like, what did Prabhu say? What did Prabhu say? She's filling me on this side while I'm getting issues on this side. Thank you for such a wonderful class, Prabhu. And thank you to all the devotees for joining us. And you always make the classes so interactive. That's what I really love about your classes, Prabhu. And also I always learn, like this one about Krishna attending the funeral. I had no idea. So it's nice that I'm able to learn as you make it.
You think
so
about it. How is it that Krishna's own father-in-law gets murdered in Dwarka? How's that? How's it possible? I mean, even
when
the family,
he's there,
the
right?
Yeah,
family-
that also
the family-
surprised me when I heard that. Yeah.
the family members, yeah, he's a family, family member. But at least at the time, Krishna's away. Krishna's away at that time. Krishna was away at the funeral, so they took advantage of that, and he was killed.
It was all pre-planned, probably, Prabhu.
Well, Krishna had his plans, yes, for sure.
I think I'm-
Okay, thank you very much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Titanam
Hare Krishna.
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Go to see the Prabhupada.
Sure.